Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Welcome back into Inside the Game here on the National Soccer Network. Jonathan Turner alongside Nathan Wangler. It is Tuesday, and as Peter would say, it is Taco Tuesday. Taco Tuesday, everybody. So, and speaking of Taco Tuesday, had a chance here this past weekend. You can call me a bad parent all you want. I don't care.
You're a bad parent.
Thank you. It's Friday night. We ordered some Popeyes chicken on Friday night, and so we ordered Popeyes, and movie on Netflix was The Menu. I don't know if anyone has seen The Menu. It's a good movie. Bianca and I had watched it. I think when it first came out, at least when it was on TV, maybe back here a couple of years ago. And this movie, it stars Ralph Fiennes, or whatever you call it.
Oh, yeah.
Anyways, it's about this like super elite restaurant that's on an island, is somewhere in the I don't know where, maybe the Outer Banks someplace. Anyways, it's somewhere in the United States. And people come in, and the whole experience, it's like this whole experiential thing where the whole kitchen, everything is this process, and it's like this exclusive, super elite type thing. And this last this night is really like the culmination of like everything. And but the reason I bring it up is it is a very gory it's like a horror movie, right? It kind of sets this whole, horror film thing, and death and whatnot. But the reason I bring it up this morning is that the main character, Ralph Fiennes, who's the chef Slowick in the movie, he talks about how growing up, Taco Tuesday, it's Taco Tuesday, right? And there's a whole scene in there about Taco Tuesday. And how the memory of Taco Tuesday for him is his father wrapping a cord around his mother's neck and choking her while in the kitchen. Like that was like Taco Tuesday. I remember Taco Tuesday very well, But anyway, if you haven't watched it, it is available on Netflix.
There's a good message in that movie too. Yeah, this is the reason why I like it.
Well, the underlying message, I was just telling this to my kids, is that, and this is my take on it, maybe yours is different, is that the underappreciation that we as a consumer, when it comes to understanding what goes into making a dish of that magnitude, right? And that, well, the one character, his name is Nicholas, he's Tyler in the movie. He is the quintessential elitist, like, it's weird. You just look at it and go, wow. Like everyone in that room, to be fair, was like spot on as far as like the different variations. You got the regulars who come in who they don't remember the dishes they had because they just go there because they can. You know what I mean? Like and I was like, all the reason why this thing comes to a culmination at the end is because all these chefs, they've worked their asses off their entire life to be in a restaurant of this magnitude, to be able to make food to this degree, and nobody gives a shit. And
only
it's
to serve the most ungrateful 1%ers you've ever met in your life.
Yeah. So it's like, so for them, it's like, let's go out in a bang. I mean, they're and it's great because I love how they go back to this point where he was like making cheeseburgers back when he was like in like high school. He's like so happy, and like she realizes that, and she like makes it cheeseburger, and like it makes his whole night. And like so a terrible way to go out, by the way. I don't the whole way they went out was just awful. But there's so many ways you could have gone.
I like the message though too, just for me personally, having been someone that was employed at a meat market once upon a time, and not only a meat market, but a meat market in a part of the city that I'm in here in GR that's not necessarily like affluent, like it's like lower middle class. And so I've grown up with those people around me all the time, and it's always interesting whenever we would have the Escalade once in a while that would pull into the parking lot and ask if we have grain-free, grass-fed Wagyu, and we're like, listen, Ada is about 15 minutes that way. If you want to drive that direction, I'm sure they got all that yuppie material that you're looking for, but we don't have it, unfortunately. So we only make stuff for regular people down here. So no, that's I really like the message. And it's funny, in a movie that has such dark comedy, they call it black comedy, which I didn't, I guess it was funny in some ways, but the message behind it was actually really good. So if you can get past all the gore and all that stuff, there's actually a cool message behind it.
Oh yeah. So I just thought that people would get a kick out of that for sure.
No blackberry ketchup.
Oh yeah, but I do have to come on here, and I do have to. I went on a rant here last week, and I do have to backtrack and make an announcement because I screwed up. And
did you try it?
No. I mean, what, the blackberry ketchup?
Yeah.
Well, I tried it when I had the burger, and it was terrible. So my backtracking is in regards to this, and this is where I made a mistake. And mainly because my father's been a diabetic for over 30 years. He's the one who I've kind of relied a lot of my information from. And but anyways, Diet Coke versus sugar-free, or Diet Pepsi, or whatever. Okay, so they do not have sugar. But what's the difference between, let's say, a Coke Zero and a Diet Coke is that Diet Coke does not care if it tastes like Coke at all. Zero sugar Coke wants to be as close to regular Coke as you possibly can be. So they both are sugar-free. Now, they both use close ingredients, but what Coke Zero uses is a different ingredient that ultimately allows you to have that kind of that sugary taste to it that Diet Coke just does not have. So they're very similar. So I went on here last week on a rant. Not that anyone was paying attention. It's not like we have millions of views, but I felt it was necessary to come on here and be like, hey, I was wrong. Diet Coke does in fact does not contain sugar. It contains sugar-like substances. But
well, you're still feeling your way through this process a little bit too. I mean, it's still kind of something that I feel like you're, because you went from not being a diabetic to now you are. So that's a little bit different to where you have to get used to. And I know you've made a lot of videos about this, but the dietary stuff and what you can drink and what you can't drink and how you kind of have to conduct yourself in certain ways. And so, I'm sure it's a little uncomfortable getting used to all that. And I'm sure that there's probably still some things that maybe you don't quite understand, but I can understand where you would mix that up. And I'm sure that's a tough thing too, because you don't want to run into a situation where you accidentally drink or eat something, and now you're in an even worse situation because you put yourself there inadvertently.
Well, it's crazy because, like I said, back in January of last year, and to be fair, it was like late December. And I kind of touched on that maybe a little bit here in another show, but I was feeling this. The best way to explain this, if you're at home and watching, listening, whatever, is that how you take your socks off after a long day and it has that line along, like maybe like if you had the higher socks up, or like even like the ones that are above your ankle, there's like a line there. You see like the kind of like the lines of your socks a little bit. I was not wearing socks, and it felt like I had like a sock on, and it was like where the sock ended. Right, is the best way to explain it. That's what I was feeling, kind of like in late December. And I again, it just was kind of like this, didn't really bother me, kind of a thing. It just was whatever. And into early January, I started to feel burning in my toes. My feet were burning, and again, it would kind of come and go. It would come in waves. It wouldn't be like this consistent thing, but it would start. So I'm like, what the hell is this? And maybe you tweak something, you don't know, because your nerve pain, you can have nerve pain from things in your sciatica. So there's so many things that you're thinking about. I scheduled an appointment to go see my doctor, and I went in, and they took my glucose reading like on my finger. So I did a fasting glucose. So I didn't eat anything from 9:00 at night until whatever the next morning. I had a glass of water in the morning, and I go in and have my glucose. My glucose is 235, right? And your normal fasting glucose should be under 100. Right. Normal ranges are like 90 to 110. But to be fair, if you're not eating for a long period of time, your normal fasting, not eating glucose should be under 100. Right. And mine was obviously double that. And the doctor was like, John, he's like, clearly we need to look at your A1C. Right. So which A1C is the measurement for which they know how your pancreas is working and how it's helping out with the whole insulin in your body, right? And because again, there's this constant battle that's taking place in your body between your sugar, your glucose, and your insulin, right? Managing all of that, right? And so looked at everything, and that's when they realized that my A1C, which normal healthy range for anyone is under 5.7, right? So if you're normal healthy non-diabetic, you're 5.7 and below. You're 4 or 5.5 and into the 5.4s, whatever. And I was 10.3. So I was, I was basically double what is a normal A1C. Um, and again, it was this numbness in my feet, and it kept getting worse. It was not getting any better.
Mhm.
Obviously, I started taking some medication. I started making some dietary changes, and those changes ultimately had an impact. And if I talked about this today, obviously from a year and a half ago till now, I've lost upwards of 40 pounds. I've gained back about 20. And that's because I have been reinserting things back into my diet that I completely cut out. Like I'm not afraid to have a sandwich now with bread. Um,
Mhm.
I just don't eat like 7 subs, in a week, right? I used to have a jib, not Jibba Jab, but I used to have like a Jersey Mike's. Jersey Mike's, man, I would hit that thing hard. I would hit it like 3 times a week, and especially the Jersey Mike's,
Man.
the
Yeah.
the 13, right? The original, right? With Mike's Way, but I would
Mhm.
add in the red pepper chili on. I mean, the red pepper stuff, relish. Like, I mean, and go with
Yeah.
yeah. I would just it was great.
And it's so
Um,
easy too,
oh
especially
my
when you're
god,
running
yeah.
around and doing what we're doing, and, like,
Well,
that's
I was
that's
hitting
a
the
hard
Sour
that's a
Patch Kids. I mean, you name it. We were hitting candy hard. I was hitting Red Bull. I was doing a lot of things a year and a half ago that I'm not doing today, and obviously I feel way better. I don't have anywhere near the same level of tiredness that I used to have. But yeah, it just. But as I'm sitting here right now, I still have like burning in my feet. But first off, one, I've gotten accustomed to it, so it doesn't bother me anymore. And number two, it's just a slight burn. So it's not the same. But I'll tell you, if I go out and I have a slice of a couple pieces of pizza, or I have something that would probably will turn into sugar in my system, I will feel it in my feet,
mm,
in that burning sensation. So,
yeah.
yeah, I have, I have mild neuropathy in my feet, and as long as I manage my glucose and manage my diabetes here over the next many many years, it won't get worse, right? And obviously the fear when you have diabetes is that you have to you amputate things. So so anyways, so that's kind of where that's at. And I know that's kind of like a detour
Yeah.
from what we were actually going to talk about, but
No,
it's
you're
just
good. I
it's
don't know
not.
how you manage the dietary stuff too. That's the other thing because the one thing that I'm frustrated with right now, and I've talked to another one of my broadcast partners that I work with, he hits me up and he's like, man, he goes like, none of my polos fit. He goes, none of my stuff fits. He just went on like, I think like a trip somewhere, but generally speaking, as broadcasters, commentators, media personalities, whatever, we are constantly moving. We're on the road. We're here, we're there, which means that I feel like fast food is always like the fallback. And even if it's like Chipotle or like Jimmy John's or something, like it's just always whatever's fast and whatever's convenient. What I always wonder is like how you manage the diet side of it all. I mean, if you meal prep, if you do anything like that, because I feel like there's kind of, as you were talking about, there's that list of stuff that you almost kind of have to avoid. Like, and maybe not completely, but at least for the most part. That's the part that always kind of catches me is how do you manage all that?
Yeah, I mean, one is I do a lot of snacking now, which so I use these Atkins things that I use are really good. So
Yeah.
they got a ton of protein, and they do have some sugar in them. I don't need to eliminate entirely like all sugars from what I do. Uh, I just have to manage it better. Yeah, I hate to. I'll still have like with kids. We have Popeyes there today. I had a Popeyes. For me, it's just take the bun off, right? So eat the protein. I eat a heavy protein diet now, and heavy fatty protein diet. So I will tend to, if I'm going to have anything, I'm going to go have a steak, but instead of having a fillet, I'm going to have a ribeye. And the reason why is the ribeye has fat in it, and that fat, when I introduce that into my system, it actually helps my body fight the sugar because fight is harder to process. The fat is harder to process, so it takes longer for my body to process it. And while that's happening, it's burning sugar in order to do
Mm.
it. So the more
Mm.
I burn, then the more it's not in my blood, right? So there's these things that I've learned
Natural
that
fats, good for you.
just kind of
Yep.
doing these things that will help kind of fight that. That will allow me then to have, maybe a couple onion rings, right, with dinner or whatever. But there was a period there where for like the first 6 months of this, I didn't touch a single carb. I didn't have any bread. I didn't have any pasta. And to be fair, I haven't had pasta at all in over a year. If I do have anything that's pasta related, it's going to be a zucchini noodle, which is not the same thing as a regular noodle. So if you try to tell me that it is, then I'm going to tell you you're dead wrong.
We're gonna get another segment of what grinds our gears.
Yeah. It's not the same thing, damn it. But good morning, Michael. Good morning. We just having to kind of dive into this conversation about kind of like my health journey over the last year. We're not going to talk the entire show about that, but just something to dive into for sure. It is Tuesday. You are watching Inside the Game here live right now on our YouTube channel, Facebook, Twitter, and our Roku TV channel. Roku is the National Soccer Network.tv. So you can head over there and take a look at that. And a lot of really cool things coming our way here down the pipe. I want to talk about that for a second because a lot of really cool things. And I'm not going to announce what those things are, but I want you to start to envision what it is that we are doing here outside of just streaming games that are across this country, on the outdoor environment. We have this great relationship with the MASL. We have been granted approval for this, which is fantastic, by the way. It is coming up here on the 14th of February. We will become the English only exclusive broadcast for the Chihuahua Savage based out of Chihuahua, Mexico. So we'll be providing that game at 9 p.m. Our very own Neil Rule will be on the call for that one, along with Dan Stickrat. So we will be the ones producing the English-only commentary exclusively for the MASL. You can only watch that game on our platforms and nowhere else. So we are excited about that. And
Neil Rule's coming back and doing some games on our platform?
Oh yeah. Neil's gonna be doing a lot more games with us this upcoming year. A lot more coming, a lot more. So we're excited about that. So he'll be doing that one. We have 3 games with the Chihuahua Savage that we'll end up broadcasting. I'll get the last one in there as well. So, but yeah, that's kind of like a really cool thing that we're announcing today. Later this week, we'll be announcing some really cool things on our website and releases. We'll talk about that, things that will help everyone across this country when it comes to the game of soccer. So we'll talk about that too. But what are we talking about here today? The one thing that I wanted to get into, and we talked about it. We talk about it from time to time. It maybe kind of like more on maybe we've touched on it, maybe we haven't. Is refereeing. And I know I talked about it myself here, about my perspective on refereeing and as a referee. But my thought process today was I wanted to maybe kind of knock out some of what I think would be considered to maybe be like the you didn't knows, or did you have any idea that this is actually a thing within the referee community, right? And this is true for every sport, by the way. This is not unique just to soccer, but I kind of wanted to put this in perspective so the people out there, the player, the fan, whatever. But did you know, Nathan, that being a referee is just as competitive as being a player?
Oh, I don't doubt it. I mean, at least I know in the sports that I do professionally, it is, and I know that they have. I know that they have people that watch and kind of dictate, how they grade certain referees. In my world, it's umpires, but Bill Welke is the head of umpires in minor league baseball and who gets promoted and who gets sent down. And the process is very much like playing the sport itself. If you perform well, you go up a level, or you get promoted to this league or that league. If you don't, you get sent down to this league or that league. And obviously Bill he was a umpire in Major League Baseball for years and years. I mean, you can list, Hall of Famers, left hand, right hand, doesn't matter. He's got a laundry list of some of the best players to ever play that game that he's umped. I mean, he's umped in World Series. He's umped in some of the biggest games in the world. And so he obviously has an understanding of what it takes to get to the next level, but it's always fun getting to pick his brain whenever he's around. Because he gets to kind of tell us not only a little inside information on what's going on, but like the specifics of certain, umpires of what their tendencies are and what they do. but it is extremely, extremely competitive. And here's the one thing I'll say, like, in order to be a ref or an ump or anybody that wants to voluntarily choose a job where people are going to hate you, you have to have a thick skin. And so that's what I feel like is the biggest differentiating factor between the ones that end up being really good and the ones that, are maybe not as great, being able to handle that stuff. So yes, I know 100% it is very competitive, unless you're just okay with doing, younger kids and stuff like that, from time to time, part-time. But yeah, it's tough.
So this is look here at the current U.S. soccer pathway, right? And obviously in every different different level there is going to be, or different league or governing body, there might be a different pathway, right? Because in this country, you not only do you have U.S. soccer, which U.S. soccer is the pathway for all the youth games, all the U.S. sanctioned games in this country. So your U.S. sanctioned games are going to be, everything from youth through your amateur, even up to your professional ranks. MLS is sanctioned by the United States Soccer Federation, and then everywhere in between. There was a conversation here about NISA and how NISA was going to be losing its U.S. soccer sanctioning, and what that means is that they do not fall under the umbrella, and they lose a lot of their ability to a lot of the perks of being associated with that federation. So my understanding is that they might get that back this upcoming year, but we don't know the full scope of that. But here's a look at the pathway for a referee in U.S. soccer, okay? Now, this has changed a lot. Back when I first started refereeing, we called them grade 8 referees, right? So you had grades, grade 8, grade 7, grade 6, grade 5, grade 4, grade 3, grade 2, grade 1. It's changed dramatically over the years. So your grassroots now is basically your old grade 8, grade 9, and that was like your entry-level referee. Everybody coming out of any referee clinic in the United States is going to be a grassroots referee to start off with. It doesn't limit you in any capacity. If you get a bunch of games and you're a good referee, you'll get a chance to do a lot of different levels and things like that in your state. But the way the regional works, and this will actually explain it probably even more. Actually, they don't actually show the explanations here on this page, but maybe I got to click on it or something. I don't know. But anyway, so you got your grassroots, then your regional. Your regional referee is what used to be your state referees. So the state referees in Michigan were anything from a grade 6 and a grade 5. So grade 6 and grade 5 were the referees that were the highest level of referee in the state. You had to go through the process of being a referee for a period of time, and then you had to get what you call an assessment. You had to pay for it. So if you wanted to upgrade, you had to pay for an assessment, and that would be you would have you go out as a referee. You actually get to pick your crew, and you find the game that's going to be the most competitive game, and then you're assessed on that game. And if you pass the assessment, then you would then get an opportunity to go take your grade 6 test. And your grade 6 test would take place every year during your renewal. And then you'd also have to take a physical fitness test, which is a referee version of what a lot of maybe college athletes might go through, running around a track, different things that would entail, seeing how fit you are. So that would be getting you your grade 6. Now that's the regional referee. Your regional referee is at grade 6 and grade 5. They're now your new state referee. And then, again, you get to go and do a lot of different levels with that. You might find some referees doing like USL championship, like level, like fourth official roles in that regional environment. You might find them at USL League 2s, USLW. You'll still find grassroots in there too. But again, a lot of your center referees, assistant referees are going to be in that regional category, doing those games. And then your national referees, your national referee and assistant referees are the ones who'll be wearing, of a lot of cases, that national badge that allows them. They will be doing your USL League 2, USLW center games, a lot of your professional level games in this country, so your championship games. But now that's governed by what they call PRO, which is the Professional Referee Organization. It is the I don't know, you want to call it like the union. No, it's not the union. It's just the referee organization for referees for soccer in this country. So it's kind of like the National Hockey Referees. So, whatever you want to call it. It's like the same concept, right? It's the governing body for the professional referees. And now it's a full-time job. So referees are being selected to this opportunity to go be in this organization. A number of referees here in Michigan, Jacob and Christian Little, are part of PRO. Nick Balser is part of pro. Jason White is part of pro. So there's 4 referees in Michigan that are part of pro. And I believe Nick Balser and Jason White are both considered full-time now within the professional professional ranks, and are actually on the MLS level. So they're doing the highest levels of soccer in this country. So that's kind of looks at again, and I might be missing some stuff in there, but that just kind of gives you like a general consensus. And you actually see pro there is above national, right? So that's where those guys would be and girls would be. And then you got your FIFA referee, and the FIFA referee being part of the FIFA panel is a whole nother level of, I mean, you're talking about 10, 15, referees from this country at any given time. That would be, maybe 5, in the United States, right? We had, what's his name? I'm trying to think about the referee who was here in the United States. I would say Mark Geiger was the official, and he was very good official here in the United States. Was a part of pro. He actually was in the, I believe he was one of the executives of pro when he retired from refereeing, but he refereed 2 World Cups and actually had a chance to go, I think, the furthest of any referee in the history of U.S. soccer. So, Mark Geiger, a fantastic referee, and he's gone the furthest. But it is extremely competitive. It's probably very much comparable to maybe even like your, maybe even like your like Brothers in Blue, or being, what I mean, like you're like in this brotherhood or sisterhood of other referees. And I from my own personal experience, I can tell you that it was really, really cool to be able to be a part of this group. And like in anything that you do, Nathan, there are ones that are good and want to get better, and there are ones that are just there for a paycheck, right? And that's not uncommon in any industry, whether that be, refereeing soccer, being a factory worker, I mean, there are so many people that do things for different reasons, but I've just come to know that there are some people out there that are going to be want to do this. They want to make, the money's great, whatever, but they want to get better. They want to just keep going up the ladder. They want to do everything they can to learn, to be a sponge, to be successful. And then there are some that they're just there, and I found that out when I created our own referee association. I found out the ones that wanted to be there, because the ones that wanted to be there were not afraid to be criticized. They were not afraid to be looked at and judged, not judged, but dissected, right? And to understand what it is that they were doing wrong, or what they could do better, right? Or how they could evolve. The ones that were like, "Oh my God, why are you looking at me like this?" and would start to ask you and almost go on the defensive, are the ones that just did not have an interest in
Yeah.
getting better, right? You can't. No. I mean, we would show people camera angles and say, "Hey, do you see what happened here?" And they're like, "Well, there's always another angle." I go, "Yeah, yes, I don't disagree with you that there could be another angle, but the other angle is just going to highlight that what you did there even more. It's going to magnify it
Mhm.
more. I mean, it's not going to make it go away. Like,
Mhm.
you legitimately, like, we had a scenario where, I kid you not, a referee. So just so everybody has a clear idea of what I'm about to say, in the penalty area, in the 18-yard box, right? If a foul occurs inside that box, okay, it is if it's against the defense, it is a penalty shot, right? You get a penalty kick, right? That's what you get. It's a PK, right? Now there are some scenarios where if it's an indirect environment, and that's another whole other conversation, then it would be an indirect free kick. But let's just go off the consensus that it is a direct free kick, and it becomes a penalty kick. We had a referee where a foul happened inside the box against the attacking. So the attacking team created the foul. The referee picked up the ball and walked it down to the other side of the field and placed the ball at the penalty spot for the other team to take a penalty kick. I kid you not, that actually happened. And everyone's like, "What is going on right now?" They ended up scoring the goal, and but it was like legit, someone did that, and you're like, why'd you do that? Well, because there was I go,
Mhm.
but I would love an example of when that happened in another in another game. we had a situation here where because penalty shootouts are such a rare thing. They're not. I mean, if you think about how many times they happen in a given season, you could argue it's under 1% of all games ever, and then it's even, in a season it's under 1%, because you don't do it that often. So the just like anything else, right? If you haven't faced it, what happens? You don't know the process. Maybe you forget protocol. You forget a number of things that happen in that whole, the whole penalty shootout, and you lose sight of it. And we had a referee here locally who, like, during a penalty shootout to decide a regional champion for high school soccer, he thought that when the players handed you the names who were on the list, that they had to go in some kind of an order. Like, you had to go in that order. And when the player
Mhm.
didn't go in the order that was provided to the referee, he yellow carded one player and took a goal away. And
Huh.
then ultimately that team won the game. And then they ended up having to go to the state of Michigan, the MHSA, and for the first time in the history of high school soccer, they had to redo the penalty shootout from the last kick that this referee made that decision. So they had to come back the next day and do it all over again. All the news has covered it. It was unbelievable. So, and the referee in that scenario wasn't one of the referees I would say was giving an example that didn't have an interest in
Mhm.
learning, but
Mhm.
he made this mistake. It is extremely competitive. Um, it can be cutthroat too, because if you want to rise the ranks and turn this into a career, then there's a pathway for that, right? It's political, right? You have to walk up to people who you know are in charge and introduce yourself and make them know who you are. And if you rub them the wrong way, they're not going to maybe give you the opportunities that maybe you wanted, right? Roadblocks can be put in the way, and it can be harder. And when they're sitting in these rooms and they're talking with other referee, assessors and administrators, and they're like, "Yeah, I like that guy John Turner, but man, he made a mistake, or I'm not going to recommend him. I'm going to recommend another guy, the other girl, right?" And then you lose your opportunity to be where you want to go. So it is just as competitive. I wouldn't say that there's tryouts per se, but it's very similar to that of the competitive world. And Jimmy here goes, I think I got to 8, but I don't really do enough games with the opportunity to move up. I've called it at USA Cup and a couple of Pikes Peak Invitationals and a lot of Park and Rec. But being a referee, um, it's more than just carrying a whistle. It's more than just picking up a watch and your card, your book, right, and calling games. It's more than that. And for me, at 13 years old, I thought it was just a way to make some extra money and still kind of be part of the game. And I realized when I turned 17, 18 years old, that you had to have your socks at the right level, right? You had, and to be fair, think about this, right? You're as an athlete on the field, there was a way that you did your gear, right? Nathan, as a football player, you wore your pads a certain way, you wore your socks, you wore your helmet, you had these things as a player that you wore. But now you talk about doing it in a different way. You're going into the same environment, but now instead of being the goalkeeper or the quarterback, whatever position you played, you're now the referee. So your uniform has to be a certain way. And if you want to be taken seriously, you can't show up in pink shoes and your socks halfway down and your shirt untucked. And, if you're going to show up, and if you watch these games that we go to, every referee walks up now at the levels that we are covering. They're all walking up. They have some kind of a suitcase that they're carrying with them, right? They're rolling it in, right?
Uh-huh.
They're wearing a lot of games that we do. They actually are showing up in polo shirts and dress pants, walking the field in that outfit. Then they go back and they change into, their warm-up gear, which is they're gonna be the black socks, black shorts, and a black, usually it's an official sports or that the team, the league that they're a part of, like association, maybe like a warm-up shirt, and they're running around warming up. Then they go back, they put on their kit, they put on their pink, their blue, their green, their whatever, different jerseys that they're going to wear. They put on their watches. Every referee you're going to see at these levels is going to wear 2 watches, not 1, but 2, right? They're going to have 2 whistles that they have with them at all times. They're going to have their yellow cards, but to be fair, their yellow and red cards they're going to have 4 of them. And you might say, well, why do they have 4 cards? Well, they keep 2 in their book. right? Actually in their books. When the book comes out, they actually have, it still has its, because that those cards actually kind of keep it together. And then they'll have a red card in either their front pockets with the Velcro or their back pockets with the Velcro. And they'll typically have a yellow card either in their side pocket, front pocket, or again under Velcro. And the reason why we did this as referees, and this is so you have an idea, I'm going to give you some insight into why we did this, Nathan. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Why are you putting it in Velcro? Why isn't it just stay in your book? Well, a couple of things. One is if you go into your book, you have to pull it out of your Velcro, and then you have to grab it out of the book to take it out, and that process can take more time, right? So we want to eliminate that. So get them out of there. Number two is the Velcro allows you some time to decide on whether or not what you're about to do is necessary, because every decision a referee makes is about split second moments, right? Where saw it, split second decision, right? So the booking process, misconduct, right? And misconduct is qualified in there's three ways to look at misconduct when it comes to a foul. Foul is considered careless. If it's considered careless, it is just your typical foul. There's nothing else necessary that's needed. Okay. You then get in the world of reckless. Now, reckless is the next level. Reckless exceeds careless, and it now deserves misconduct card. So reckless would be a yellow card, all right? And that could be for a hard tackle. It could be for a number of things, but that is where reckless comes in. Excessive, right? And again, excessive is defined by many things inside of the laws of the game, but excessive is that studs up tackle from behind up in the upper thigh of a player as a red card. So there's how you define your misconduct. Careless, no card. Reckless, yellow card. Misconduct. And then you've got your red card, which is excessive force. It's excessive. That is how it is defined by the laws of the game. So when you are looking at a foul and you see a player getting their shirt tugged a little bit, and they go flying, they go down, but nothing, whatever. You especially at the professional level, you're going to call that careless. You might go, hey, don't do that. Cut that out. We're done. You might see a referee go like this a lot, right? No more, no more. Right? That's a big thing in soccer is this right here. And they'll have that quick talking to maybe, and they'll be on their way. But you see that long jersey pull, right? Right. You see that pull, and then they go take a spill, or advantage now, which is the one hand up like this, advantage, and they come back and you show the yellow card. And then obviously that hard one. So, but the whole purpose of you putting it in a Velcro pocket to pull out is so you give that moment to go, okay, I'm going to my pocket. Is it the right card? And should I do it? Right. But the other part of this too, which is it happens a lot. If you haven't noticed, if you ever watch a soccer game, you'll see it. And it doesn't happen as much as it used to. But back in the day, we used to have referees who would legitimately put the yellow card and red cards in the wrong pocket. Right. So for me, I'm right-handed. So my red card always went in my back right pocket. And if you ever watch a game, most referees will have that red card in their back right pocket or their back left pocket, depending how handed they are. Okay. So they would do that. My yellow card would go in my right front pocket. I wouldn't typically, have it, in a Velcro pocket. I kept my red card in a Velcro, kept my yellow card in my front right pocket. In every game, my process was this: I'd grab my watches were on my left and my right hand arm. I had, my whistles, which, I had two whistles attached to each other. And then I pull my cards out and I put my yellow in my right front and my red in my back. And I double checked it and whatever. And there were games where I forgot to double check. So you go to go give the yellow card, and in fact, you're giving a red card. And I've done that. But you've seen it on TV too, where a referee's, and they gotta go like, no, my bad, and they give them a yellow card, because then you see a player's face go from like, what? That's a red card? Like I'm out? Like the face, the whole face. You'd kill players and their whole like mindset.
Yeah. Yep.
So it was, but that just kind of gives you like some insight into like the referee. And obviously, I haven't refereed since 2014, but so it's almost 11 years now. But that kind of like, and every referee is gonna be different, right? Not every referee is gonna be doing the exact. Some referees put two watches on the same wrist. Same hand, but with all the things now too, with the communication devices, you've got devices on your arm for your assistant referees. So they when there's offside, is being called. You get like a little zap, a vibration on your arm through this device, and then you obviously have communication devices where referees have a microphone, and all four of them do, and they can all talk back and forth to each other through a walkie-talkie type communication system that allows them to communicate. And so that's a whole nother layer of technology that it was just kind of coming into the world when I was getting out of it. So, but it's a very, very competitive space, and not a space, but part of soccer that I just don't think that the average person knows.
And it's a necessary part, and it's so tough because much like any of the other sports that we do, I'd almost be willing to ask you, kind of what this all looks like. What I will say before I ask that question, though, is, and maybe there's some level of this, staying in longer doesn't always necessarily create more luck. But if you stay in longer and you're also willing to learn at the same exact time, I imagine that really helps guys climb the ladder. But I really liked what you said about the fuse part, and the having the thick skin part. I remember at least one particular instance, and again, I'm just speaking on my experience when it comes to the people who control the game, right? Whatever you want to call them, refs, umps, those people, you know who they are. One of the umpires who was on our level last year who ended up not being on our level, it was one of those things where that particular individual led the league in ejections. And it was almost like given, it was almost like understood that if you had a game with this particular person, if there was any sort of pushback, if there was any sort of questioning, if there was ever sort of approaching for a conversation, all that coaches, and maybe again, I'm kind of looking for you to confirm this on the soccer side because I don't know, but I'm speaking on what I know. All that coaches want is to be received and respected and heard. That's it. You know what I mean? If they cross that line into disrespectful, or if they bump you, or we kind of have a good understanding of where that line is. But all coaches are just looking for someone to actually listen to what they have to say because they have an idea of what they saw, what they think. And so they want to approach you and be able to have that conversation. And maybe if it does get intense, you can shut it down or tell them to walk away, but be able to do that without, being thrown out of the game or having that referee, crash out or lose their mind. That's a really, really important thing. That's a really, really important aspect of the refereeing and the umpiring side of it is that fuse can't be really short because unfortunately you're in a position to where you kind of need to have a long fuse in order to do your job the right way. Because there are people that are going to get into your chest regardless. I mean, it really does not matter necessarily what sport it is or in what position you're in. People are going to get into you quite a bit on what exactly you're doing. So the thick skin side of it is so important. But I guess my thing is, JT, and maybe you would have a better understanding of this, is there some truth to the longer you stay in, the more opportunities are going to come to you? Or is it just that some people maybe are predisposed to having better opportunities because of where they came from?
It's actually a good question. Obviously, I think the more experience, I always say the more experience you get, I think the opportunities will come your way. But I also think it's how you handle those opportunities too, right? I mean, because everything is about how you handle it, right? And I think at some point in time, everyone will have what we call them KMIs. And so KMIs are key match incidents, and again, they might have changed the terminology, but back then that's what they called them, KMIs. And these key match incidents are where basically that was a defining moment. These are defining moments in the match that how you handled them would determine whether or not you would have passed your assessment, right? So these KMIs, and referees are gauged on how well they handle KMIs. And so if you are a more experienced referee and you're in these positions and you are consistently not hitting your KMIs, these moments, then yeah, you're not gonna rise the ranks, right? And there are some referees out there who they want to be the center referee, and I was one of those that I wanted to be the center referee. And to be fair, yeah, there's probably a control part of that I wanted. I wanted to be in control. There is something about being the team leader, right? You think about this from the standpoint, and for those of you that don't know baseball, every crew has a crew chief, right?
Mhm.
And that doesn't mean he's behind the plate. It just means he's the crew chief. So because in baseball, the referee crew will rotate, right? So if it's a 4-game series, every single person in the 4-man crew is going to be behind the plate, right? And then they're all going to rotate, right? So, um, but you have your crew chief, and he's in charge of that crew. So his role is all the major reviewable decisions will run through him, and that crew chief role. But in soccer, your crew chief is your center referee. So they are the ones that dictate the whole game. And it's your job as the fourth official and the assistant referee to fall in line with that referee's way of thinking. Obviously, the more you do games with that referee, you'll figure out what they like, what they don't like. And the mentality when I was growing up and when I was coming up into the ranks is that here I am, I'm this 18, 19-year-old, very fit kid, and I'm refereeing with people who are in their 50s. And I, as this 18, 19-year-old kid, wanted to have an impact on the game.
Yeah.
And I
I
couldn't do that as an assistant referee.
Yeah, that's true. That's
I
true.
couldn't. And the referee in the middle had been doing it for 30 years, and they weren't listening to me. They weren't even giving me the opportunity to even really say anything. So I would walk up to referees and be like, "Hey, I'll give you my game fee to be in the middle. I'll give you my game fee. Whatever I'm getting paid today, I will give you my game fee." And they would take the money from me. And I would go work the middle so that I could and that's how coaches started to go, we really like John, because I was in the middle of these games and I was showing them what I could do at the high school game. And it helped me kind of get my name within that. And then that allowed me the opportunity to start getting my own crew. Because that's what I wanted. I wanted to have my own crew. And I ultimately got that, I don't know, 2.5, 3 years into being a high school referee. It was it was fun to finally have that thing where you have people who are kind of working with you that you are in charge of, and telling and showing them how you want this game to be done and how you want it to be called. And that was really a really fun experience for me. I have never had the pleasure to rep, but I know a lot of people, a lot of me photographers, majority are great to work with, but a few I stay away from interacting with. And there are some unapproachable. See,
Yeah.
I would walk up to a coach, and to address your thing about this is I would walk up to a coach and be like, "Hey, I'm Jonathan Turner. I'm the referee today. I I want you to tell me what are you looking for from me? What are you looking for out of me?" And a lot of them, because that maybe they'd never been asked of them before. They'd be kind of like, "Oh, what do you mean?" I go, "Well, I'm here. I'm here calling this game. I know the laws of the game. I know I've been doing this long enough to know what I have to do. But what are you looking out of a referee? I'm just curious." And they would tell me. They would be like, "Well, I'm looking for you to be consistent." And I go, and the one word consistency was always the thing coaches always said: "Be consistent." I go, "This is my response to being consistent. I will call the fouls that I see." Right. So I will not call fouls that I do not see. Right. And I said, if you're looking for consistency, I will apply the rule of law the same. So there will be your consistency. But that's how I would address it. And they go, "Okay, that's fair." And I go, "But here's the thing, too. I'm an open book. So instead of you yelling at me from 100 yards away, what I want you to do is, if you really need an explanation from me, I will happily come over and tell it to you." I said, "But I will not be yelling at you. We will not be yelling at each other. It's not how this is going to work. All right. I will listen to you and you will listen to me. And if we can't do that, then I will still be here at the end of the game and you won't." That's how that works. It was really
Yeah.
simple.
Yeah.
And again, I actually had a coach once. So this is a high school game. It was Rochester Adams, and I don't know who they were playing. Maybe it was a Rochester, maybe it was a crosstown rivalry or whatever. And I remember I'm doing the game, and I called a penalty shot, and immediately after I called the penalty shot, player started saying, "You effing terrible ref." So in high school, when you start swearing, my hands were tied when they were screaming so loud. So I had to give him a red card. So I give him a red card, toss him. Then another player starts running at me. And as he's running at me, he's taking his shirt off. So I immediately have my red card back out. I don't know what this kid's doing, but I am literally showing. And as soon as I had the red, it's like he just detoured past me to the field. It's almost like he's like, "I want to get out the field right now. This is stupid." So he took his shirt off and he's coming at me in this aggressive way. I get my red card up and off the field he goes. It was very interesting. And the head coach, who happened to be my club soccer coach growing up, his name was Juan Delgado. he is screaming. He's on the field, like 10 yards on the field. So I run over to him. He is screaming at me. Blah, 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 I looked at him. I said, "You can say whatever you want right now. I'm not giving you a card. I am not giving you a card." He's like, "What do you mean that you're not giving me a card?" I go, "I am not giving you a card." He's like, "But John," I go, "You can say whatever you want. Here's your moment. I'm not giving you a card." And he looked at me like with this like, "I'm not going to get a card? Like what? Like
What am I doing this for? I'm trying to make a point.
He literally stopped. He literally stopped in his tracks, and he's like, okay." And he went back to his bench. He didn't say a single word the rest of the game. But because I literally said to him, like, "I'm not going to card you." I get it. Like, you're upset your players just got red card. You have a PK against you. I understand it. It's not good. But here we are. And yeah. And it was funny how that went down. But those are the kind of things that I would do. Like, I would walk up to coaches and be like, "Yeah, or I would walk up to a player after I made a mistake and say, "Hey, I missed it. I missed it. Like, my bad. I'll my bad." And they'll be like, "No worries, ref." Right. But then when they would come up to me and they would be like, "Hey, ref, that was a terrible call." I would wait for my moment, man. I would wait for my moment. I would wait for that same player, 16, to just make a meal of a pass or just take a shitty shot. And I'd walk up to him and go a little, "Hey, man, that was a good shot. That was a good shot." It's borderline terrible.
I love
Borderline
that.
terrible. Borderline terrible.
Yeah.
And they'd be like, "You can't
Yeah.
say that to me." I go, "Well, you can say
Yeah.
I'm terrible. Why can't I tell you had a terrible shot? I don't understand." I go, "This is, hey, the rules apply to all of us."
Yep.
And if you're going to come
Yep.
at me, I'm going to come at you. And then after the game, they walk up to me and they would be like, "Man, that so I would give it back to them. When they had a great shot, I'd walk by them and say, "Man, that was a great shot. It was a great strike, great goal." I would give them the kudos, great save keeper. And then when they would yell at me, and I would give it right back to them. I would make it like them know it's a level playing field in that regard. If you want to come at me, I'm going to come at you. And that made us kind of more on in the equal footing. But I would always tell them that, the second that you let the whole world, because again, if you say something to me, it's just me and you, Nathan, and you're like, rough, and you're in my face, and I'm just like, "Okay, cool, I got you." But that wouldn't bother me. Early on in my career, it did. I would get mad about it, but as I got a little later into my career, I didn't care. If it was just me and you, I felt like that was the respectful thing to do. But the second that it went from me and you hearing it, but the whole world heard it, I would say, "Dude, you left me no choice." If you want to yell, and I'll even tell players this before the game, "Hey, if you come at me and you say some stuff that I don't agree with, and it's just between me and you, I can take it. But the second the fans hear it, you're gone. Like, it's not even going to be a conversation piece. But if you want to have it between me and you, I'm down with it. I'm fine. I'm a big boy. I can handle it. And that's how we worked it out. And to be fair, if you watch the games today, Nathan, that's how referees are calling the game. They're allowing these moments where and that's how the better referees manage a game. And it took me some time to figure that out. And it'll take a lot of referees,
I guess,
so.
Yeah. Well, I guess I would ask, and I know that we're getting towards the end of our time, but like, do certain coaches, and I'm not saying you, because, you talked about how, you want to call the game right down the middle and you want to call what needs to be called in the right spots. And I understand that. Is there any truth or validity? Because again, I'll use another baseball analogy. It's like the catcher and the umpire, right? You almost kind of play this game of, this political game of trying to get on their good side, of trying to communicate with them and just ask them about their kids, ask them about their family. Like, you're almost trying to develop and cultivate like this personal relationship with the umpire that's behind you all game, because he might give you a call in a big spot. Is there any of that goes on in the soccer realm where coaches aren't necessarily like smoozers per se, but they're going to go out of their way to try to get on your good side in order to hopefully, if there's something that happens down the line, you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours. If I treat you well and I don't give you any issues, then you're going to end up coming back and helping me later on. Is there any truth to that? And I'm not saying you specifically, but is there some level of truth to that in the game of soccer?
Yeah, I mean, soccer is it's funny because it's as big as the community of soccer is, it really is small, right? I mean, there's your top level coaches are well known by everybody, and your top level referees are known by everybody. Yeah, and then when you start talking about getting into these small environments where the OAA, like all the referees, you walk up, all the coaches, they know you, right? I mean, like when you go to
Mhm.
if you go to an NCAA game, doesn't matter what, Big Ten, coach walks onto the court, he knows the referee crew. They've known each other for years. It's like, hey Jim, hey
Fair.
Bob, hey, we're on
Yeah.
first name basis, and then when the game starts, it's like, hey jackass, what your name
Yeah.
changes from Jim to jackass, right? So it's like immediately things like that start to happen.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, as a referee, not as a coach, but as a referee, my job was to not be personal, but personable. Right, the coach is going to always use whatever they can to give themselves an advantage. And as a coach, being that I have a referee background, I did use my referee background to help me when it came to dealing with referees. Right, and it came back to bite me in a lot of cases, as well as helping me. I mean, there were moments where my dialogue with the referee led to a player from another team getting ejected because of the way that they handled, and it worked in my favor because I was the one who was, and these referees, they knew who I was. So that, but it was a detriment to me because I knew the laws. And a lot of times I would use that to create situations where I was maybe coming off like I knew more than the referee that was on the field. And while I would admit that was probably the case in that moment, probably not the right way to deal with it. Right. And that was part of me as a coach trying to learn and maneuvering the navigating this new sideline role that I had, which was different than that of being a referee. But I wouldn't, if I knew someone like had just had a baby, like we had coaches, oh, congratulations on the new baby, that's awesome, because you would know these things because of the community.
Right.
But I would not specifically, I would not get into those types of things. I
Mhm.
just felt, but there are things too, because I was that referee that was more of an open book. I would walk up to a coach after after a game or at halftime, while other referees would just get the hell out of there. They would just run as fast as they could to their car. I would go address the coach, like, hey, let's talk this thing out. I said, and I would even say things like, hey, I'll evaluate what happened here tonight, and if I feel like we did something wrong, I'll let you know. Now obviously, it doesn't change the outcome of the game, but um, at least the referee knew that I gave a shit. I mean, the coach knew I gave a shit. I mean, and that was the thing that I wanted coaches to know, is that I gave a crap, and that's why I was given the opportunities that I was given. That's why I was refereeing state championship games at the high school level. I was refereeing at the highest levels in the state because coaches liked me, and that was a consensus among the referee community. I was a really good referee. I was good for the game, and that's why those opportunities came. And if you didn't have that reputation, then you weren't given those opportunities. It's
Right.
really that simple.
Yeah, it's a game within the game. And I even talk about it with what we do. And I know we, spend a lot of shows talking about play by play and all that. And, doing your job well is one thing, but there's also that other area, which is open and honest communication with the people around you and expectations. And it has to be two pronged, right? You have to be good at your job, you have to care, but you also have to be good with people, right? Because if you're not good with people, I feel like you don't really climb the ranks. And I know we only got about a minute left, but do you find that sometimes that's a separating factor between the good and the great referees, is their ability to kind of cultivate those relationships with the coaches that they do work with?
It actually loses. I think 10 goes right back to what Peter's saying here. He sees this as a power thing. There's a ton of referees out there that um, are stuck in the fact that they are in charge.
Yeah.
And that no matter what anyone says, there's nothing that's. And again, I was always firm in the fact that no matter what I did, my message to everybody is I knew what I was doing. Right. So even if I
Right.
pointed the wrong way, I pointed it with conviction. I made the whole world
Mhm.
know that I was confident, even if it was the wrong call. It didn't matter to me. Um, but there are referees that they are too big. They are in a power trip scenario, right? And that could be for numbers of reasons. Coaches have been terrible. Parents have been terrible. So if you're always walking into terrible environments and you are part of that problem and you aren't looking to address it on an internal level, then it will only continue to exacerbate and get worse. And then ultimately you end up being this power tripping, not willing to talk with anybody, person, referee. And that's probably what he's alluding to, because there are a lot of referees that are like that. and again, some misguided, right? Who just maybe they need to be talked to. They need to be given, some mentorship, and ultimately that will change their way. They need some humility. I mean, there's nothing more there's nothing more that will bring you back to the world of what you consider to be level-headed than doing something that you feel like you are destined to do. You go and do that thing that you're destined to do, and then ultimately, you find out that you weren't good enough for that level. That'll bring you back down to humble land, and that is something that I had to experience. And once I did, then the whole thing got tremendously better for me, and it helped me become a better referee. So, but yeah, I thought today was a good opportunity for us to talk about that, because refereeing is a big deal, and it's a part of the game that we need. We need more referees. And for the player out there who's currently playing right now, yeah, if you are still wanting to be in that competitive environment, I can tell you this right now: being a referee can be just that. And I found it for me for almost 20 some years, and you can as well. Peter, because I saw a home single A baseball game one time, the music announcer played Three Blind Mice song, yep, and the guy got, yeah, I saw that. That's a video. We actually saw that too.
Yeah, I've seen that before.
Tossed him out. Again, could have just gotten divorced. You don't know. I mean, it's, it could have, who knows? But that will be a wrap here on episode number 21 here on this 4th day of February for Inside the Game. Jonathan Turner alongside Nathan Wang. But don't forget to hit subscribe, like us, share this with your friends and family. Tomorrow is Hump Day. And Nathan, sir, you are in charge of our content tomorrow. So I look forward to seeing what you come up with here for tomorrow. And then don't forget, Thursday's Throwback Thursday. So we'll do some throwback work here on the platform, as well as Film Room Friday. So don't forget about those two things. So either way, we appreciate you stopping by. Nathan, man, have a great rest of your day. And we'll see you next time on Inside the Game here on the National Soccer Network.
Peace.